Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to the High Level CEO series. I am very excited because we are going to be here today with Amy Elizabeth, the founder, the CEO of Align by Design. And we are going to be talking about raising the standards for yourself and your business and how to hold the standards, which is like so hard to do as an online entrepreneur where you have a lot of judgments, you have a lot of criticisms, you have a lot of people watching you, and there may be times of wobble or doubt and like, can I hold the standard? Especially when you're used to doing things a certain way or you've been conditioned to do things a certain way. So we are going to dive into this juicy next level conversation. Amy is joining us. I'm gonna let her in. Come on in, Amy. Hello, everyone that's watching live. Here we have her. She's coming on.
Hello. Hi, Krista.
Hello, how are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for coming on.
I'm so excited. This is going to be amazing.
Okay, wait. I think I'm gonna turn up my phone so I can hear you better. Okay, this would be better. Like, you're so quiet. What are you doing this morning?
Okay, well, this was my Monday. Actually, I went to the dollar store to get a whole bunch of Easter goodies, played Easter Bunny, and then I went to UPS and FedEx drop off and Starbucks, and here we are.
Okay, how have we not
dropped off the kids?
Yeah, how have we not dropped each other off at Starbucks? Like, why? Why don't we do that?
Why? Honestly, probably because I'm like, boom, I gotta get home.
This. Hello, everyone who's watching live. Thank you for coming. Okay, this is a juicy conversation, but before we dive in, there may be some new people from my world that are watching. Just some new people joining. Do you want to introduce yourself? I mean, I've known Amy. How long has it been now? 4 years, I would say. I remember scrolling Instagram, and I was starting to like be really interested in like manifesting and energetics. And I remember scrolling, and I told you this story before, and I was like, who is this like angel? You know, you have like really long blonde, like curly, flowy hair, and your messaging. I was like, okay, I need to know who this is. And you were, I believe, like one of the first programs I ever took. And I was in your first program, which was Soul School. Yeah. And then I think, I don't know how we found out, but we end up being like, we're 5 minutes from each other. This is crazy. So
yeah, literally. And then we ran into each other at the ice cream place with our kids. Like, of course.
Yeah. At the little ice cream place. And then what else? Yeah. And then you really had been like such a path, a pave maker, I'm like, I don't want to use what everyone says, like leading the way, but you really have for me on my business growth and expansion and me as a person, my evolution. I mean, I've come into your programs, you've been my coach, I watch you all the time and just expanded by you. So yeah.
Aww, thank you. And we're both former teachers, and you've done some incredible sessions with me, like for me. So again, just like the overlap of beauty is just impeccable.
Okay, so yeah, tell everyone a little bit about you, what you do, and then we're going to dive into the topic of standards.
Amazing. Hi, guys. Okay, so I am Amy Elizabeth. I am the CEO and founder of Align by Design, and I utilize human design in my business as the most impactful tool of helping other entrepreneurs, a lot of coaches, but a lot of just entrepreneurs in general, really align their lives, their vision, their standards, their truth, and their energetic DNA all together in alignment so that they can have the most fulfilling life, so that they can amplify their magnetism, have the most amount of ease, and really live like the richest life they could possibly live from their truth. So it's basically what I do. I'm a former teacher, so it was 4 short years ago I was still teaching. My life and journey has been filled with polarity, massive ups and downs. I've gone through separation, divorce, single motherhood while creating this business, and I've scaled it to multi-millions in a couple years while practicing my own alignment.
Okay, thank you for the intro. As you were telling your story, I'm just like, I'm reliving it too, because I feel like I was on the path with you somehow. Like I've seen you when you were married and when you were pregnant with Hendrix. And if people don't know the story, who Amy currently is with was like such a divine intervention.
You set us up. Like Krista was like the founder of us coming together. It's insane. My partner right now, it literally, I don't think it would have happened if it wasn't for you. Who knows?
Yeah, he's my hairdresser. I mean,
so amazing.
Yeah. So this is the craziest story. I like, honestly, is 11. Well, we just had 11 people on here. I feel like our paths are meant to, like, we were like divinely guided, because there's so many things that have happened between us. Okay. Oh, I was going to say about human design. So when you came out, you know, talking about human design, I remember that time I was growing my product business. I was taking a leave from my teaching job, and I was also doing like intuition readings, you know, some coaching. And I remember thinking, like, should I just focus on my product business? Am I spreading myself too thin? Am I like putting my eggs in too many baskets? And I kind of felt guilty about it. But as soon as I learned that as a manifesting generator, it was like my whole life changed. I was like, okay, like I let go of the guilt, and I was like, no wonder I'm like doing this and I'm doing this and I'm doing this. I'm like, this is, so I really like had this permission slip after I had learned about human design from you. And it changed everything. Like I was like, okay, I can own this. I can scale a product company, and I can also scale a coaching business while being a mom of 3. You know, my husband working these long shifts. And from there on, I owned it. And then I was able to scale the company and retire my husband and hire him for our company. And now I focus on this. So honestly, you just bring it to I mean, I know it was out there, but like you really blowing it up online, especially in the coaching industry. I mean, it changed my life. It changed the way I, you know, decided to just like claim it all and give myself permission to do that.
So good. It's so huge. You mentioned a couple words in there, is like the guilt and the shame and like the overthinking of it. That's essentially the biggest emotions that we're going to feel when we're out of alignment. And I remember during that, you know, phase of the coaching industry, it was all about niching down. Everywhere you turn is like niche down, niche down, niche down. And as an MG, of course, when you hear all of this, right, you're going to be like, I should be doing that. But that should, and then that guilt, and then that shame, and then that overthinking or that frustration is coming up, which is showing you are meant for an alternative way, which is 0 niches and basically going in all of the directions at the exact same time. So it's so important that we understand ourselves. Otherwise, we're just going to be burning ourselves out. Well, we kind of have success in, you know, creating these incredible businesses, but it won't be fully fulfilling, right? You won't be energized. And the whole point is you should feel completely energized, alive, excited, passionate about what you're doing from day one until like you're like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember I believe it was MMP. That would be the one for manifest. Yeah. And you have that right now. People can go to your link in bio. It's a self-paced course now that people can take, right?
Yeah. So it's called Money, Magnetism, Sex, and Power for Manny, Jens, and Jens. And it's all about that activation. It's all about the like, yes, this is me. And like, let's go with that fire.
Yeah. Highly recommend. Go take it. Okay. So let's dive in now to the juicy topic on why I had you on here. So yeah, standards. So when I think of you, I was like, okay, I'm having Amy on. What do I want to talk about? Of course, we could talk about human design, but I'm like, I really like something that stands out for you is your standards, the way you hold yourself in your personal life, and the way you like embody the things that you preach, the standards that you set for yourself in your branding and in your marketing, in your pricing, like there's in your messaging, like that is what I think about when I think about you, are like these high standards, and you don't buckle. You're like, I don't care. These are my standards. So I really want to dive into this because I know that this is something that's really hard for entrepreneurs to do. Like, I think they know where they want to go. I think they know what type of standards. Maybe they don't, but some do. And then the fear kicks in, right? Or the like, what will people think if I say this or do things this way? Will I still have the same clients? You know, the people that have been with me for years. Will I have a big gap where, you know, there's no sales coming in because I've changed things, I've shifted things, and I'm holding the standards. So yeah, if you want to just tap in on like some of the standards you hold for yourself, and then we can dive into like, what do you do if there is doubt or uncertainty?
Yeah, okay, perfect. Thank you. So, first of all, standards are things that we hold ourselves to. And I think the most important thing where people go from like they can't hold the standard is they try to go way too far. So, I'm always reevaluating my standards. I think our standards, morals, and integrity are all very linked together. So, I have my baseline ones, right, which is complete honesty. I work really hard on transparency and vulnerability. I make sure that, you know, my standards for myself in terms of my health, standards in my business of free time, like spaciousness to be a completely hands-on mom, like that, there's no give there. Like that will never change. Though possibly actually as my kids get older, they need me a little bit less.
Yeah.
But the standard is that I'm available. You know, I'm here. I'm not going to feel like I have to sacrifice anything. Creating my business in a way that it works for me instead of me feeling like I'm working for it. The standard of, you know, again, like an idea, being creative and going with it. So those are some of the standards I hold for myself. Wealth as in overflow, making sure that I feel really good around money, energetic work for myself. Those are all things I'm constantly doing. But as I evolve into this next, you know, level, I'm reevaluating, like, what are the standards now? Oftentimes when I launch something, I will be an embodiment of that before I go into the full launch. And I'm really working on understanding what that's going to be, you know, whether that's refinement, whether that's a manifestation. Like I'm holding all of those for myself as I move into that next level so that I can actually arrive there, right? Instead of being like, okay, well, when I was a teacher, I wasn't holding the standards of being a multimillionaire. Like that's way too far, you know? So you have to go in these steps, and people want to bypass the steps, but those are the most critical parts. Otherwise you're going to jump up there and you're going to fall. And I think that's what people get into when they're like in fear. They try to go way too far instead of going step, master it, step and step and step.
Yeah. How can you tell, like you're talking about your standard shift? I really actually love this. Your standard shift as you are shifting, right? As you're evolving. So you do this like reevaluation. Couple things. How can you tell when you are shifting, this evolution is happening, and it's time to reevaluate?
So there will often be something either in my life or my business that just it naturally and organically is changing. So it's kind of like if I were to hold the exact same standards I was holding a year ago right now, they're not going to fit inside of this box. And this box is requiring, you know, new elements to come into it so that I can open it up. So it's not about like, I think it's just awareness of like, ooh, this doesn't feel right anymore, or ooh, I need to add this one in. So for example, when we moved into a house together, we blended our family of 7. I had to shift, you know, my standards of how I was showing up, how I was navigating that, how I was holding my business. There was lots of like readjusting of those foundations because it wasn't the same as it was before. So I think the biggest thing is look at life. Look at your circumstances, look at your business, look at your energy towards your business. And if any of those are like, ooh, this is a little bit different, that means it's time to add in or readjust what standards you're focusing on.
Yeah. And do you start to feel for yourself? I know for me, it's like, I can feel like if I'm feeling frustrated, or if I feel like I'm starting to like my body's starting to feel energetically drained, and I'm like, oh, okay, something needs to shift. But for you personally, how are you able to tell, you know, with the blending of the families and like shifting how you show up? I mean, I feel like I can even tell from, there's been a shift even how often you show up in your stories since things have shifted with, you know, blending the family. And so it's like navigating now, what does business look like? Now, what does, you know, when you have now a partner and you have more children in your home. So yeah, for you, what are those like telltale signs?
Yeah, I think it's just like I either feel resistance towards it, like the way I was doing it before. And it's like, I don't really want to, or, you know, like, ooh, I don't have time. Right. And that's like, I always can find time, right? That time is our friend. So if I'm saying that, I'm like, ooh, I actually just don't really want to, or there's something changing here in the way that I am showing up. So I think it's more of like the reflection towards, am I feeling tired? Am I feeling like I don't want to do it? And then I ask the questions why, because sometimes it actually could be around fear. It could be around, you know, like I'm afraid to break through this edge. And other times it could be like, this is no longer in alignment, or if it's not even in alignment, because I think our standards are always going to be with us. We just have to develop new ones. It's just not of service to be focusing on anymore.
Yeah. Okay, speaking of like, this is edgy, is it something that like I'm actually, you know, the fears there? That's one thing that I wanted to talk about with you, is because I'm always like, oh yeah, whenever I watch you like do something that most wouldn't do, or it's kind of risque or edgy, or, you know, maybe may make others, you know, very uncomfortable. How do you know, if it's a belief, because you're very much about transparency and integrity, so this is the standard of yours, how do you still hold this? Because this is, I think, one of the biggest reasons why people don't say exactly what they want to say, or have that transparency, or meet themselves at these edges on where they're going, because they're afraid of like backlash, or, you know, and I'm sure you've had this, you know, making people uncomfortable, or people coming into your DMs. So how do you still hold the standard with that awareness that you probably know this is going to make others uncomfortable?
Yeah. Okay. So this is old background work, right? This is like, I was a teacher before, and like in 2018, when I did a mastermind, I literally, the entire mastermind, all I talked about inside of that mastermind was getting support on showing up on Facebook Live and talking about human design. So I spent 6 weeks being like, I'm afraid to talk about human design online, like, da, 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 da. So I've gone through a lot of my personal coaching and mentorship based around these things, around how to walk with fear, around how to hold it all in order to have it all. In like courage, how do you stay true to yourself courageously on projections that come in? How do I handle projections? So I've done a lot of work so I can understand why people are like, oh, I'm afraid to do this. So the biggest thing we need to be doing is doing that background work. Why are you afraid? What is the conditioning? You know, what are you thinking people are going to say? Are you prepared to handle the possibility that it will? Because I'm never going to be like, yeah, you go post something edgy, people aren't going to say anything. Maybe they won't say it to your face, but you know that they're also talking about it, right? How are you going to be able to hold that? Can you have hard conversations? Can you communicate in ways where it's not like you have to get me, but we can also have compassion for each other, right? So those are the things that I've been able to like put in my toolbox to be like, I've got this, it's okay. Like, you know, that stuff is going to happen. I've never pretended that it won't, but I've become really prepared in being able to handle anything that comes my way. And that's been, again, through years of mentorship. And then walking with that fear, like for me, it's like, you know, if I'm afraid to do something, it's showing me I'm meant to do that thing, right? My creativity, and this is like a piece of like my edginess, if I mute that, I'm really bitter. Like I'm mad at myself. I'm like not in a state of flow. So I also know that if I don't do it, I'm just going to be sitting here by myself in misalignment and annoyed. So it's like, you know, can I just risk that, go for it, be in alignment for myself, and then handle whatever comes from that? Like, which is the better option? Or sitting here being like bitter and shutting down and, you know, not having that state of flow. So I always choose that, even with the fear, because I really don't like the alternative.
Yeah. And I feel like this even goes into the question around even raising the standards for your pricing, or the type of offers you're putting out, or how many offers, or the type of clients you want to now lead. What do you do there? You know, when you know, you're like, okay, I'm going here. There's this new standard. I can feel the evolution. You're feeling maybe out of alignment with, you know, the pricing or who you're currently serving. I mean, I've seen before you come online and be like, I'm no longer doing this type of, you know, program or whatever it was anymore. Like, this is what I'm doing. This is who I'm here to lead. Which again, I always find it very like empowering and I'm like inspiring, that word, but like when I see you do that, I'm like, ooh, I'm like, yes, there you are again, holding the standard for like what you want, not buckling. You're going, oh, well, maybe I'll put this out and this out because maybe more money will come in. So how do you kind of navigate that when you know you're shifting things, you're being very clean and clear on what you want? Is there, you know, any bit of fear of like, oh shoot, like maybe no one's going to come in? Or are there times where there's a bit of a gap in between because it's a new standard and you just kind of hold that faith and vision and then it catches up?
Yeah, totally. So first of all, like there is inside of our industry, it's so big, but so small. So I think a lot of times we just kind of go with the flow of what's being done instead of really tuning into self. So I have like I can't, like as a projector, if I'm doing something that like is just for the money, like I can't, I'll be exhausted, I won't be happy, right? So it's like I know that I cannot maintain what isn't aligned for me. And the work that I've done on money, right, is like that money won't come anyway. So again, like which place I'm you know, which side am I going to go to? So as I go to the other side of alignment and truth for myself, which again is not going to be the truth for probably the majority of people, but it is mine, I for sure have had fears. Because again, these are just normal, right? So it's like, okay, yeah, so what if people don't buy? But then I always think of the what if on the other side. What if somebody's been waiting for this exact message? What if somebody's been waiting for this exact like path to open up for them? So I always play in where my mind is going in the what ifs around fear, and then like alter them in the what ifs of all of the possibilities. And then I'm also have gotten to the place where I am okay if people don't. Like, I believe everything is always working for me. So it's like, if people don't buy, you know, if there is a gap between where I start until somebody purchases or until, you know, the flow picks up again, I'm okay with that. One of my standards is not to drop the ball along a launch, or not to drop the ball because of the the tangible results that aren't coming in yet. It's like, I know now that continuing to go will get us that result, and or the new direction and where we're supposed to go. So it's like, it's just happening exactly how it's supposed to happen. So holding that power every day is going to be the only thing that allows it to happen. The second I drop it because of ego, or, you know, like, oh, it hasn't happened yet and it should, and last time it was this quick, right? Those are all stories and egotistical things that are not of service to me. So it's like, as I step into my highest self and I were to look below, I'd be like, yeah, just keep going. Like, you don't even see what's over there yet, right? You don't even know what's coming up next. And to allow this process to be like, there's something incredible on this side, I just have to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love how you've always, like, there's been times where you have done things and it hasn't gone to plan, but you still held it to the end, even if nobody ended up joining or didn't have that outcome. And then from what you're saying, when you still hold that, like, are there things where you're just like, you look back at that launch, or maybe you're like, maybe that wasn't really exactly what I wanted to do? Or does it sometimes lead into something bigger or different, you know, because there's always a purpose to it?
Yeah, it always leads to something different, which is amazing. And at the same time, like, I've tried to be very transparent about those moments too. So even if it's not, like, it's always a lesson, right? So I remember I had like my first like 3 months in a row, or like first 6-figure month, and then it wasn't a 6-figure month, and then it was 6-figure months after that. But I was like, I didn't have another 6-figure month, you know, like, it's okay. Because like, again, people are putting all of this pressure on themselves to be like, hit the thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. And for the majority of people, it's not normal, especially when you're in a business long term. It's not going to be normal that you're having a higher, right? We set these unrealistic expectations that just send our central nervous system into like complete overdrive. So I've also been like, okay, if it's happening for me, it's happening for somebody else too. So let's also extract this and share this with everybody else in the lessons that I've learned. And that's then the new mindset standard I walk with. Not that I'm like, okay, well, you know, I'm just going to drop the ball because it doesn't matter. It's like, as long as you hold those standards, it's going to, again, work out. Something else will come in. But the more we hold that, you know, negative energy, or that low frequency, or that shame, that guilt, that like pressure on ourselves, it's not going to happen that way.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay, so before we hop off, because we only have a couple more minutes, the other thing I wanted to ask you about, and I think everyone watching would love to hear, is I personally find you very creative and unique and different. This is what makes you stand out. Where do you get the inspiration from? And do you do certain things to kind of tune out, block off what other people are doing so you don't get influenced and you can kind of let your own creativity come through?
Thank you. Yeah. So, I mean, I yeah, I don't watch a lot. Like I actually was saying to somebody the other day, like I don't use Instagram like a normal person. Like I really do utilize it as like a business
Mhm.
tool. So it's my business, it's my work, you know? So I'm just like you would operate at work, utilizing it for work. I will go onto TikTok and just like, you know, zone out there, but not really on Instagram. So I try not to like really look at other
Mhm.
things. And then besides that, it's like I know that like I just get hits. I'm a splenic authority. I just get downloads. So the more I can keep my energy clear, you know, movement and travel and, you know, creative places, music, like these are the places that like they will always bring me inspiration and an idea. And then I'm just like very visionary. So like I see something
Mhm.
in my head and then I'm like, ooh, like this is what we're creating. And then I just go with it. So I think it's again about really tuning into self. And when you know yourself, you're going to be confident enough to be like, okay, here's my vision. This is weird. Like, can we bring this to life? Or, you know, like that's not quite it. Like I've not been afraid to be like, oh, that's not really what I saw, you
Mhm.
know, and you can always get to that place, but you have to be open to the creativity. You have to like get offline and live and experience and, you know, find that inspiration elsewhere, also without the pressure to find it. Like, again, just let these downloads come in, like, let yourself have fun with it.
Yeah, and I think too, letting yourself evolve. I mean, if I look back at you and me, we scroll back, it's like who was I like 3, 4 years ago? So different. The branding, the way we dress, the way we show up and talk, the offers are like all it's evolved. And our names have changed too, right? Like from
Yeah.
even at the beginning. So it's just like like being, I think, in the moment and letting yourself be creative and have that inspiration come through and act on it and be okay if it is different and you are changing and shifting. And I think a lot of people are afraid of that, right? The judgment of, oh, who does she think she is to, do that? That wasn't her last month, you know?
Totally, totally. And but that's the part of evolution, right? If we understand evolution, it's consistent change, right? So when we're always leaning into change and our businesses are online and our businesses are being seen and our businesses are branding and our businesses are, you know, delivery, we have to be evolving those things in order for ourselves to be successful and for us to understand ourselves at a deeper level of personal evolution.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, thank you. I feel like we could talk for
I
like
know.
another, hour or so. This is so powerful. Oh, so thank you. Okay, where can people can find you? They see you here. What's going on in your world? What's happening? How can people come into your world?
Yeah.
What offers do you have?
Amazing. Okay, so I have Align by Design HD, which is my Instagram account for human design. So post a lot of content on there regarding human design. Our website is Align by Design HD as well, and you can register there. And we have emails that come out. Right now, my business is not in a launch. I always have one-to-one spaces open and available, along with the Voxer spaces. But I'm kind of contracting out some work right now in the name of evolution. And then my personal page is the Amy Elizabeth. So you can go hang out with me there too. I post a little bit more about my kids and my family and myself and what's going on, just like in like life as a business owner. I also have some incredible collaborations that are coming out there too, which is really exciting and cool. So yeah, just you type in my name and you'll find me somewhere. I also have a podcast.
Yeah.
It's not new episodes, but there's tons of episodes. So you can go
Mm.
check that out too.
Oh my gosh. As you're saying, like some newer things that are like contract work and stuff, I'm like, it's like you say it, I'm like, yeah, I already knew. Like, like just it's the psychic part, right? It's just
I
like,
love it. I'm like, every time the Chris is like, she'll be like, and da, 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 da. I'm like,
yeah,
ah!
yeah.
So
And
cute.
then, so going back to Amy's partner now, I actually had a dream. Okay, I had a dream of Amy. I was like, do you remember? It was like a thunderstorm night. It was like
Yeah.
crazy. And I remember I woke up from this dream and I saw the person you were going to be with. And I messaged you. I'm like, okay, I had this dream. Do you want to hear it? You're like, yes, tell me. And I described him to a T, like what he looked like. And then when you guys
And
ended up,
shoes, you don't even know how many shoes this man has. Like you were like, he's so
yeah,
particular about his shoes or something like that. Like
yeah,
everything. Like you
he was
have
wearing like black
leather.
leather coat. You guys were
Yeah.
walking. This is the crazy part. You guys were walking in like a big city. Like I was like Chicago or like Toronto.
yeah.
It was so crazy. And then it was like, maybe I would say about a year later, then it ended up being me who was like, okay, my hairdresser, and you end up getting together with him. It was so weird. But then I remember that dream because I saw a photo of his Instagram, and I'm like, that is the outfit he was wearing. And he was dark haired, and he was like darker, tone of skin. Yeah, crazy.
It's so crazy. Honestly,
yeah.
you've like had so many hits where it's just like between him, and it really is like a process. You said something about the car too, like he drives like the car he was driving or something like that, right? Like so many things where you're like, I don't know this, and all of a sudden, whether it's like in a month later or 3 months later or a year later, we're like, whoa, remember when you said that?
I feel like I need to do another reading now. Like where now? Because when you were talking, I was like, ooh, I already like knew these things just from I can watch your Instagram and know what's happening, like without you telling me. So yeah.
That's like a fish.
Okay, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Amy. This was such an honor, and thank you for being an example, holding the standard so that the rest of us can do the same too.
Aw, thank you, Chris. I love you, and I'm sure I'll run into you somewhere.
Oh yeah. Bye. Love you guys.
Bye. Thank you,
Bye.
guys.